everybody. Welcome to Cakeburger. My name is Steve.
And I'm Mike.
I feel like I'm back from the dead right now.
I know. I saw you last Friday, but it's so good to see you back recording. Well, Spider-Man books, hopefully.
That was in our leisure life, our real life, our secret identities. This is the first time seeing each other in a professional setting right now, I guess.
Yeah.
Back under the Cakeburger banner.
How's
it feel to you? To feel like you get riding a bike or?
I hope so. I've been staying out of practice with the Friday night game night stuff, but it's been a while since we've done a Spider-Man episode or anything. Spoiler alert: we're doing something about Spider-Man today.
It seems like this is kind of like a reoccurring thing. I take these long sabbaticals off the YouTube channel, which it kind of seems like it's almost your YouTube channel now, and I'm just a guest star.
Stop. Once we get our Spider-Man thing running, we'll be back together.
I
Hopefully in person. I've been busy in the yard, so I forgot to tell Steve, hey, let's do something. And I remembered, oh crap, I kept forgetting to ask Steve if you wanted to come over or just do a Zoom thing.
Well, I don't know if you mentioned it on Friday Night Game Night, but Mike's recently become a homeowner, guys. So yeah. he's got the whole everything that comes with it. The love and joy of owning a home. It's like just like Spider-Man says, it's a gift, but it's also a curse.
It's also a huge responsibility.
Just like Aunt May says, not Uncle Ben. That's Aunt May says a great power must also come great responsibility.
Well, in the MCU, yes.
Yeah. But anyway, let's get right into it, guys. A couple months ago, I guess last year, I did a review video on it, and we kind of talked about Spider-Man: The Beyond era. Basically, what happened is Nick Spencer finished writing his last issue of Amazing Spider-Man, the Kindred Last Remains, and the whole reveal about who Kindred's identity was, and kind of he ended his
a very, very long, drawn out Kindred storyline.
Yeah, I mean that's a video we can kind of go. I mean, do like a little a deep dive into it and see what was really supposed to happen, and Nick Spencer basically got a Substack deal and kind of told Marvel to F off, and basically I think the rest of it was kind of ghost written by editorial and Ed Brisson, who was co-writing the book. But that has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. Well, it kind of does, kind of segues into the Beyond era. Basically, what happened is since the Marvel was left holding the bag, they needed something to do until they could find another creative team. Zeb Wells, a writer at Marvel who was writing, I believe, Hellions at the time, who's had some history with Spider-Man, pitched this idea for Spider-Man Beyond. Not like Batman Beyond at all, as the name suggests. Yeah. But basically what happens is we had this a brain trust that happened once during Brand New Day, back when Spider-Man was kind of give a soft reboot after One More Day with Dan Slaughton and the crew. This one included Zeb Wells, obviously, Patrick Gleason, who not only drawing but also writing some issues. Also Kelly Thompson, Saladin Ahmed, who writes Miles Morales Spider-Man, and Cody Ziegler of Rick and Morty fame. I guess kind of fame. I think you've probably seen his name in the credits somewhere. Basically. So the last year is basically
and the amazing covers of Arthur Adams.
Oh, that's been the chef's kiss, the frosting on this cake, whatever kind of cake you want to call it. To me, it's certainly not a chocolate cake. More like maybe
it's a Cakeburger cake.
Maybe a yeah, exactly. I mean, with his Rick and Morty background, I think Cody Ziegler would probably appreciate a Cakeburger, considering some of the concepts they deal with. But basically, anyways, we'll kind of get into what's been happening. Basically, what happened is not Miles Morales. Ben Reily has come back. He's been recruited by the Beyond Corporation. The Beyond Corporation is basically this this group that's been mentioned in Next Wave and a couple other Marvel titles, which has been so basically they buy the rights to Parker Industries. So the Parker Industries folded during the end of Dan Slott's era. They get the patent for Spider-Man pretty much, and kind of like you can decide to get into the superhero game. They recruit Ben Reily, Misty Knight, and Cindy Moon, and start this whole superhero initiative. And so basically we have some stories written by what's his name? Zeb Wells, Kelly Thompson, there's like basically replacing Spider-Man with Ben Reily.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, I mean, I don't know. What do you think about the run, Mike? As far as
I found it very boring.
yeah,
You got so few fans that are big fans of Ben Reilly, like me and Steve, especially me, because Steve knows I'm probably one of the biggest Ben Reilly fans. I've been wearing a hoodie with my terrible lighting in here. So it's not the Ben Reilly that we know and love. That Ben Reilly's gone. We haven't seen that Ben Reilly since the Spider-Verse comic book where they killed him off in that universe as well. So if you're hoping for the good old-fashioned Ben Reilly, you're not going to get it in this book. It's a completely new cloned version of Ben Reilly. If you guys remember the clone conspiracy, where they kept killing up, Jackal kept killing up Ben Reilly, bringing him back. But you all know that. So this isn't the Ben Reilly that you know and love. It seemed like he was a little bit more. I don't want to say he didn't have that Ben Reilly that we love. So it wasn't like, didn't seem like he had the same moral compass as Peter, even from the beginning. I felt
the thing is, it's not the '90s anymore. So
yeah.
you have Ben Reilly, you have fans of that character, a bunch of millennial writers like you and I, who are kind of like giving their interpretation of their rose tinted version of Ben Reilly with what they remember of Ben Reilly. At first, when I first started reading it, I wasn't really a big fan. It kind of seemed more not even like how Slots was during Clone Conspiracy, not even how Peter Davids was during his run. It was kind of just like a different version, just kind of like a blank slate Ben Reilly character. As the run went on, I think he kind of got a little more into that Clone Conspiracy type character a little bit. And we'll kind of touch on that a little bit more. As far as stories goes, it was clearly a filler run. You had some stories with Morbius that were kind of fine. There's some kind of cool moments with that where Morbius bit Spider-Man and he kind of got infected with the vampire disease a little bit. And the Beyond Corporation was like, oh, what if we didn't cure him? Wouldn't that be kind of cool to see what happens? As far as like the whole, and there's a story with Craven, which kind of happened a little too soon after the last Craven story that Nick Spencer did.
Yeah.
So a little Craven out at that point. A few cool issues with Dr. Octopus. Dr. Octopus was pretty great in it. He kind of like threw a monkey wrench in the whole system as far as Ben Reilly being this corporate mascot for the Beyond Corporation. And then he kind of figured out there was always something alluding to there was something going on with the Beyond Corporation, a little shady. And Dr. Octopus being like the genius he is, kind of like he saw through all of that and kind of got the things going in motion as far as like unraveling the whole like diabolical machlinations of the Beyond Corporation. We had some other stories with who is it? Goblin Queen, I guess her name is. Not
Goblin Queen. That was a very rushed storyline. The biggest thing is that it was rushed. They cut this off very early, and technically the 60th anniversary isn't until August, I believe. That's when Amazing Fantasy 15 first came out in 1962. So we could have had a few more months of like character development for Ben Reilly and this Beyond storyline, but they cut it short early. And the biggest fault that I see is that it was basically co-starring Ben Reilly. Kind of going back to Dan Slott's run when it was co-starring Peter Parker.
Well, that's the other thing. It kind of there was that other subplot with Peter getting back on his feet. It almost seemed like kind of like a I mean, I don't want to turn this into a whole like Beyond era review show. That's an episode we can do for another time. We're here to review the last issue 93. But to kind of put a pin on it a little bit, it turned a little bit into Night Quest. I don't know if you guys remember Nightfall, the Batman storyline where Bruce Wayne.
And you definitely, when we first talked about this months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, you nailed it. What the character was going to end up to be. Like, by track or something, but.
I can put the video, and it kind of did play out that way as far as Ben Reilly goes. That's a perfect segue. Let's get right into issue 93. Issue 93, aka for you guys who've been around a while, issue 894, I believe.
I got the issue right here. 894.
So it didn't exactly end on issue 900 like we all kind of thought it was going to in June. It ended a little sooner than we thought. Basically what happens is we've had these kind of visions with Ben Reily as far as like these like weird messed up faces going and stuff like that. And it turned out the whole thing was because the Beyond Corporation basically mind wiped or picked and cherry picked like memories out of Ben Reily to kind of like keep him being more stable and more of the hero they wanted to be, and less like unhinged a little bit, I guess is what you call it. As far as the last issues goes, that whole thing kind of unraveled. They had to mind wipe him again. He kind of goes a little psycho, and I can't. What's the name of the lady in charge of the Beyond Corporation? I forget.
Maxine something.
Maxine, yeah. Who weirdly enough has short pink hair, just like Maxine from Batman Beyond. I don't know if that was planned or not. But anyway, she kind of like continues to manipulate Ben and give him this like headgear thing. Like, listen, you knew what this was. You chose to do this, but if you want, I can make you whole again. And what can make you whole is basically like, taking the memories from Peter Parker and like what's going to happen to him. And she's like, fuck him. This is your life. You know what I mean?
Basically,
he's given that choice. Before that, we opened the issue where there's obviously callbacks to Spider-Man Revelations that
I like that. I like that a lot, the Spider-Man Revelations. And then previous Clone Saga stuff. I think that my favorite storyline where we first meet Spider-Side before he became Spider-Side.
That's the thing.
Spider-Side's on it, but it's that whole story arc in the Clone Saga, which is my favorite. One of my favorites of the Clone Saga was it. I like that.
We have the attic part, the attic scene in Spectacular Spider-Man where Ben and Peter or Peter's moving out of his house in Forest Hills. And he's moving in and making room. I'm not sure which one it was, but he basically kind of like him and Ben are talking and they're having this like brother moment. And then they also have the scene where Mary Jane confronts Ben Reily about trying to take her husband's life. A little bit of inconsistencies there because in that issue, Mary Jane was pregnant and visibly pregnant in that, but in this one she's normal. I think they're trying to like not allude to the pregnancy because Marvel kind of cherry picks what happened and what didn't happen. Yeah, after omit or whatever it was. But anyway, so Ben Reily kind of goes off the rails. He decides like, you know what, it's true. I'm sick of being like a shadow of you. He gets this kind of like impression that like Peter's like always been trying to like like he sees him as like an imperfect clone, which at this point Ben Reily is pretty much. And so he decides he's gonna like take Peter's memories and he's gonna like he deserves to be Spider-Man. Peter's had his chance. He's the old version. He's the new version. It's time for a new Spider-Man, something like that. Which is kind of very akin to what happened with Jean Paul Valley and the Nightfall storyline with Bruce. So it kind of played out that way. Peter, he ends up beating him. And Ben Reily fall, and the whole thing kind of like not only does Ben Reily get defeated, but the Beyond Corporation kind of like topples in its current version anyway. It seems to me like it kind of like didn't get like destroyed. It went to like its own like kind of back to, if you read Next Wave, it kind of goes back to its own kind of thing and stuff like that, and I'm sure it'll come back again. The board of the Beyond Corporation tries to kill off Maxine, kind of like cover its tracks. She plays them. So she's back to come back another day. And so basically we think Ben Reilly's gonna die. He falls down this some kind of like gooey ectoplasmic portal. His girlfriend Janine ends up finding him, and she's like, "Oh Ben, no!" And then we find out during the epilogue that Ben is this new character called Chasm, I guess. Which I mean, I remember talking to Mike. I think I talked to Mike, and I think I also mentioned it during my review of the first issue of the Spider-Man Beyond era, where I said I think they're going to turn Ben into sort of a superior Spider-Man type character, or kind of like a more like. At first, it kind of seems like they're kind of making him like the Kane now. I don't know what the deal with Kane is in the MCU.
See, that's a missed opportunity of cutting this short. I was really hoping that Kane would make an appearance.
Yeah, she popped out of nowhere and said, "I'll figure this out for you, Peter," and just kill Ben Reily. Yeah. Type of deal. Art was by Patrick Gleason, and so that's the end of the Beyond era. And then we have Zeb Wells coming on for the next issue as a regular writer. What do you think of the? Let's go with the good first. The good. What's and we can, if you want, you can kind of touch on like previous issues. I mean, because it's all kind of one big story.
So the pros that I liked about this issue and the story alone was the artwork, obviously, but I liked how that Ben Reily uses this technology.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beyond technology, but he's still using the technology to be the better Spider-Man. Where, for some reason, the Marvel writers don't have Peter learn from his mistakes. He's not going to learn from his mistakes of the first issue of the Beyond issue where he almost dies because of radioactive poisoning. He doesn't have any filter in his mask or anything to filter that crap out. And Peter's smart enough to create this stuff and whatnot. So, I mean, the pros, the Slingers came back. I like that. I like that Hobby Brown is a Hornet now after he basically created.
He designed the Hornet armor to begin with, anyway. Yeah.
Especially since Miles Morales' uncle is taking on. Well, he's technically still alive in the Ultimate Universe, but allegedly. But he took over the mantle of the Prowler, so now they're giving Hobby Brown the Hornet persona. The superhero name.
You can eat it too. I like it.
You can eat a Cakeburger and eat it too.
I have.
You're feeding me this stuff. The cons is that it was incredibly too short. It was co-starring Ben Reily, and they kind of repeated some of the same mistakes of the original Clone Saga when he was Spider-Man, and the real Spider-Man is they kept Peter there. They should have just kept Peter out of the book for this.
Well, the original intention of the original Clone Saga was kind of phase Peter out. That's why they had him do a bunch of despicable things like slapping around his wife and acting like an asshole. I mean,
sorry, that reminded me. And they made Ben Reily in that first issue be the superior Spider-Man. Basically, he was better, he was stronger, they made him better, and then immediately made him like he didn't know what he was doing. He's like, I know I haven't been doing this. I'm like, well, the first issue you just kicked ass. Now you're like a dud. I didn't like that. So for me, just overall, it wasn't the greatest run. It was kind of boring and uninspired, and maybe it was just because I was still hoping to get the Ben Reily that we love, but they're not doing that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, that's we'd be lying to say it was like a lot of things you look back on. It was a product of its times. You know what I mean? If you were reading, it's a lot different reading it in real time during when culturally where we were in the 90s and and that kind of thing. You're not going to be able to recapture that because that era doesn't exist anymore. That's just like nostalgia in a nutshell, pretty much. Yeah. The things I did like about I did like the technology aspect of Ben Reily, because that's the thing when he first came back as Scarlet Spider, he had like the stingers and the impact webbing, that type of thing. So I did like the spinneret thing, which was provided by the Beyond Corporation. But I would like if Peter kind of implemented that thing into his costume. The non-stick adhesive proof, thing he could put around his costume, where like Spider-Man tried webbing him in the first issue of Beyond, and it kind of deflected him because he get webbed up. I like that. I also like the they kind of alluded to a little bit a polyamory relationship with the issues with Black Cat, Mary Jane, and Peter Parker, which I mean, if Marvel really wants to kind of go in on its progressiveness, as far as relationships go, they made strides with the LGBTQ movement, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, honestly, Peter. Enough with the cat and mouse game. Enough with the Betty Veronica Archie thing. Just have what you do. You have Peter get banged up. You have Black Cat kind of bail him out, bring him in there, and they kind of nurse him together. And there's why don't you just? And then you said Mary Jane close the door. Why don't you just stay? And he gets into a relationship with Felicia, Mary Jane, and Peter Parker. And just let's
until then, only up here, Steve. Only up here.
Let's just see where it goes. You know what I mean? They did kind of allude to a little bit in some issues. I did like that.
It seems like they might be setting that up because in the new story arc that I'm already not looking forward to, that Peter and Mary Jane might be breaking up. So who knows?
I don't think so, because they do those covers. The covers don't mean anything nowadays. They don't have anything to do with.
So that's what I'm hoping to tease. Especially at the end of this issue, she asked him to move in. So that makes no sense. That doesn't track at all as far as where the cover goes. I don't believe covers at all. They're very misleading. Unless Arthur Adams, he's these covers right here were the last issues comics I've seen in a long time that kind of have anything to do with the comic inside. I'm not ranking this as my favorite story of all time, but that was the best part of it.
Yeah,
even if the story was great, his artwork is still the best part of the cover.
If we're gonna keep going with the good, Arthur Adams covers. Obviously, Patrick Gleason Patrick Gleason is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, Marvel's gonna they have like a John Byrne situation on their hands right now, where I mean, he's been teamed up with some good writers, but he's also a writer himself, and as far as artistically, he's amazing. So I mean, it's only a matter of time before you like give him a book and like let him run with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I obviously wouldn't have been. I would have been fine if he just took over Spider-Man. To be honest with you. Other things I liked, I did like some of the storylines. I mean, they were very like they were vanilla, but they were also not offensive to me, like in a way like Slot storylines where they act out of he did act like everybody kind of acted like they were in character pretty much for the most part. There was some fun storylines with monsters and like kind of like one and done storylines. There wasn't like a big long narrative besides the subplots with the Beyond Corporation. And yeah, I mean, and honestly, I think the way it ended was, I think, how much better than Clone Conspiracy ended. When Clone Conspiracy happened and they brought back Ben Reily, I was offended by the character assassination of Ben Reily. I was offended by the way it ended, and it was just a bunch of like, it was a mess. This one ended actually pretty. It ended with like a nice cliffhanger as far as Ben Reily goes, where he's going next. I mean, obviously, he's not going to be the hero that me and Mike know and love. He's not going to be like, he's not coming back as like the '90s Avenger. But
I feel like there might be still some redemption there. I'm still having faith if they do anything with it.
The thing is, he's broken. He's like I mean, like he's not. I wouldn't say he's a bad guy. But he's definitely like he's fucked up, and like he's looking for his way. So I mean, it should be interesting to see where they go with him.
It seems like they're going back to right before Spider-Geddon, right before Superior Spider-Man fixed them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they'll kind of put him like in a lethal protector type situation. Maybe like in a like how a Kane Scarlet Spider type situation. I don't know, but either way, I'm a little bit interested as much as I can be in these comics. I mean, so I mean, yeah, that's the good for me. I can't really. I mean, yeah, I can't really think of anything else. I enjoyed it. I was entertained enough. Where I mean, there's only maybe one other Marvel comic. I think Daredevil's the only other Marvel comic I pick up on the reg.
Yeah, this is a beautiful issue, beautiful run.
But I was entertained enough where I kept on tuning in every issue. So I mean, that's the good. The bad. What do you got, Mike? What do you want to complain about?
Just that it felt rushed, that they ended it way too quick.
Yeah.
Definitely the different artwork, which I'm not saying it's terrible. It's just when it's disorienting when you have someone that is a little bit better than the next artist. It kind of takes you out of it a little bit. I know why they do that, because they put out like 3 or 4 issues a month.
Yeah.
And they got but still, it's disorienting that they do that. And I don't know. It's just.
No, that's a common complaint with everybody. Is you have no regular art teams, and like that's a conversation for another time. We can go on and on about it.
Yeah,
but
that's a rabbit hole. Can't go down right now.
Yeah, for what they were doing, though, I understood. I mean, we dealt with it. I think they was executed better during Brand New Day. Yeah, when they had like a writer artist storyline, then a writer artist, they kind of switched it. But this one, it was like you had Kelly Thompson writing like 3 issues, and then all of a sudden there was like 2 different artists, like sometimes mid book. And so I guess like as far as the bad goes, for me it's kind of like a backhanded compliment where it was just fine. It was, but ultimately it was boring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like it's something. I mean, like I don't think it had to be that many issues long. But it is what it is. But I mean that's kind of like just my impression of just Marvel comics and even DC comics too. I mean, I guess to a point is where they're just fine. Not really knocking my socks off. I like the Arthur Adams covers. I like when what's her name, Sarah Pichelli jumps on for a couple issues here and there. I like when Patrick Gleason's drawing it. But I mean, like
I think the biggest thing is it's been there, done that. It was subpar retelling of the Clone Saga. I saw it as and I think I went into it knowing that was gonna be disappointing because it's not the Ben Reily that I love. So I mean,
I did enjoy it. I'll say this: I did enjoy it much more than I thought I was going to enjoy it. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I was surprised by how much I was fine with it. I thought I was going to hate it. Then again, maybe I was just in a pissy mood, like just in one of my bouts, like my funks I get into where I'm just like everything sucks, I hate it. This is gonna suck too. But I mean, it was fine. So I mean, yeah, that's basically. I mean, and that's not really a bad complaint, I guess. I mean, it's not really to blame. And honestly, that's not the fault of the writers or any of the creatives. It's just, I mean, when you have like 80 years of the same character, eventually it's like it becomes a little like
stale.
Like stale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And honestly, and if you were to ask me, like I can say like it was boring. I've been there, done that. And you say, Steve, well, what would you do then? I'm like, I don't know. I like just don't do it anymore.
Well, we already know what I would do, and it wouldn't be this.
Yeah, I mean, I have some ideas, but then again, I mean, even when I kind of go through what my idea, I have things like a 3-year plan for like if I were the writer of Spider-Man, what I would do, and then I'll go through that whole thing, and I'm like at the time, I'm like, this is interesting, this would be kind of a cool thing to do, like for an issue. But then when I look at the whole thing in like its completion, I'm like, meh. So at this point, that's kind of like where I'm at with like Marvel Comics and these characters. Like, I mean, I don't even know what to do anymore. I mean, maybe the problem's not with Spider-Man. The problem's not with the books or the writers, the creators, or the artists. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just like like that the last issue of Peter David's Hulk run, where it's like maybe I've said enough. It's not enough.
I think what the problem is that they're trying to get new readers, younger readers that probably never really read these old stuff, so they're just repeating the storylines where they like, oh, this is great. But for me, people like me and you, we're turning into Patrick and Denny, and we just don't like the new stories now. I mean, it's
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's not that I just don't care enough. I'm not invested in them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, if I were a kid, if I were like if I were to take my younger self and like bring him here now, I would probably enjoy the storyline, but not enough to pay $5 every other week or a week for like for however many months this took. I think the stories are fine, but it's just like for someone like me, it's just I've been there, like we said, I've been there, done that. So I guess that's like my bad, or my cons, I guess. As far as what's coming up next in this in Spider-Man, we have Zeb Wells coming as the main writer. We're gonna find out what happened as far as like that voice and that flash of light that was at the end of issue 93. I'm guessing it has something to do with the preview art you've all seen, where it's like this big explosion.
Which I'm already not looking forward to the new run.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know.
I mean, if I can go on a tirade real quick, I'm sick of everyone hates Peter, everyone hates Spider-Man again. The Fantastic Four hate him. He's on the outs of Aunt May. Like really, come on. I mean, they started doing that in the beginning of Spencer's run when they thought that Spider-Man was teaming up with the Kingpin, and I'm like none of these heroes would believe that. I mean, so I don't know.
Well,
maybe it's gonna be something new, and it's gonna kind of be like, oh, we trust you now, Peter. You did the right thing, but at the beginning we didn't think you did. That type of scenario that I feel like they're gonna go down.
Well, if that's the case, which I don't know if it is or not. It seems like that's like a thing also with the I see the big two, Marvel and DC, where it depends on the writer. There's no consistency with like the narrative of the Marvel universe. Like what's what the narrative is, what I mean, it's just kind of like whatever the writer feels like, however he feels like writing a character. I feel like I kind of saw it with Brian Bendis, where he's kind of like, I'm gonna do whatever I want to do, and it's kind of like just gone on ever since then, where like writers before, when you were a writer at Marvel back in like, if I could take you youngsters back during the Bronze Age or even the 90s too, you had to kind of like, if you were going to write a character into your book, you had to kind of like, okay, well, let me go look at that person's book and see what's been going on in their book, how they would treat this character. You do a little bit of homework. Now it's just like, if like you're writing Spider-Man, it's like, well, I like Captain America, and I'll throw him in here and I'll write him like this. You know what I mean? Like, never mind the fact that he's a fucking werewolf in his book right now. He's gonna come here and he's gonna be like, fucking all-American guy. And it's I don't know. That seems to be a reoccurring theme in Marvel right now as far as their writers go. So I mean, as far as Zeb Wells goes, at least I know it's not offensive. He seems like, I mean, when he first came on Spider-Man, he wrote one of the Spider-Man stories I hated so much.
Oh, you mean that award-winning one that IGN and Comic News keeps saying?
He said, which I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Zeb Wells. I think he kind of if you see his writing in Hellions and also Avenging Spider-Man, which he did in with Joe Madureira. Also, I think he did the Savage Wolverine with Joe Madureira. He's improved a little bit as far as the writer goes. Yeah, you definitely see what his tastes are.
Mhm.
I think you'll. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it'll be good. If anything, I'm optimistic in the fact where I won't be offended. I guess is my take on what's coming in Spider-Man. I guess we have John Romita Jr.
Yeah.
coming back, who everybody was like, had a huge boner for until he announced he was doing NFTs. Now everybody hates him.
See,
So,
I love his artwork, but I feel like we're stepping back. It feels like we're going back. His artwork's good, and I'm not dissing it. Fucking NFTs, I hate those things and crypto and all that shit. But like, I just feel like if we're going back, the artwork style is going back to the JMS style way back when. We've been there, done that. Again, I'm getting older. I'm like, meh,
you're sort of a crabby old bitch, Mike.
Yep, I am.
I mean, John Romita Jr. Yeah, I love John Romita Jr. So I mean, I'll definitely. I mean, that's a plus for me. But I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, I couldn't even think of a creative team that would even get me like super pumped to buy Spider-Man now. I mean, before we keep on. Again, I think we are getting old, Mike. Because keep on going back to this. In my day, I mean, back when I was a kid, you had like John Romita Jr. It's like I'd really like to see his version of like X-Men or his version of like the Hulk, and but you don't because he's been on Spider-Man. But now you've seen these guys draw everything now, and like you go on these guys' Instagram pages and their Twitter, and you see like Joe Madureira draw like Mega Man. So there's nothing left in the imagination anymore. Like all you have to do is ask them; they'll draw a sketch or something. So it's not like you can't say like I wish I could see this character on this artist or this writer on Spider-Man because you've already seen them do like their version of it. So there's nothing left to get excited about. So I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
Mark Bagley.
Oh, I will say one thing. Mark Bagley's his last storyline he did, the one with Goblin Queen, I guess it was. That was the best work I've seen of his in a long time. He had some nice, great dynamic plots. His characters didn't look ugly. He looked like, I mean, it wasn't like the old Mark Bagley from the 90s and the even early 2000s, but it was still probably the best work I've seen from him in a while.
I think if you give him enough time and he's not rushed, he'll put out good stuff.
Yeah. One thing we don't, if we can do a little callback real quick, one thing we know for sure is not happening in Spider-Man is what I alluded to was Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason being on Spider-Man, which turned out to be complete and utter bullshit.
That would have been an awesome run. I was actually looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it wasn't the first time I've been fooled by a creator. I thought it was going to happen. Donnie Cates, I'm talking to you. So yeah, that's our review. I mean, so we'll give up. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna rank, the title card is gonna say Amazing Spider-Man 93. So we'll rank the issue. I think it was a perfectly fine bookend to a perfectly fine era in Spider-Man, I guess.
I give it about a C plus. I give it down the middle.
Yeah, it's fine. It's passing. Yeah.
Now, before we leave, we should mention, I don't know if you've been reading the Ben Reily Spider-Man book, the miniseries, but the previous issue, they revealed that Spider Side is still around and he's been the main villain of that book.
I got to read that because I was very excited when I saw that. I love everything is just like, hits my sweet spot. Jan DeMatteis is one of my favorite Spider-Man writers. The art looks beautiful in that. I love
the artwork is beautiful.
I love the Ben Reily Spider-Man costume, so I'm all about it. I got to pick that up. And now,
that's the biggest con that I have of the current story arc of Beyond. You didn't have the classic Ben Reily suit.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
And they already set us on the wrong foot where they were dissing the Scarlet Spider suit right in the beginning.
It was very inconsistent. Even the artists were very inconsistent as far as like how they were drawing it too. There was never one set version. But it is what it is, Mike. Yeah. Now we have to move beyond this now, Mike. You know what I mean?
I will. I think I'll try.
Do you get it? Beyond. We're gonna move beyond.
I got it. I'm gonna try and move beyond this, but yeah. If you guys, the Ben Reily single book, the miniseries that's coming out, that's out. It's all right. It feels like it takes place before Sensational because he's kind of all moody and like I can't have friends type of thing. But Yeah, it's a lot better than the Beyond story arc. I'll say that much.
I can't speak to it because I haven't read it yet, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. So check that book out, guys. And also check us out on YouTube. Check out the rest of our videos. We have a ton of videos. Probably at this point, way more video game content than we have than our comic book content.
I am getting close to 100 100 episodes of Friday Night Game Night. Check us out there too. We want those views.
Well, hopefully we'll change that. I'm gonna try to even the score with Mike. You know what I mean? Like he's really making a fool out of me as far as like being a content creator and like, you know.
Well, we gotta get going with the Adventures of Batman and Robin on the Sega Genesis too. So
yep. So anyway, that's gonna do it for this this episode. I'm trying to get back to the saddle here. I'm a little rusty. But anyway, guys, remember to like and subscribe and check out more of our videos, and we're gonna see you next time. And I'm gonna try to figure out where the stop button is. There it is. Bye, guys.
See ya.